She has trained in clinical psychology and has her master's. She trained with Dr. Sam Sears, who's like the guru for psychological adjustment for ICD patients. He's nationally known, so Rebecca has come and trained with Samuel Sears, and we are delighted that she's here with us tonight. Rebecca came on board with Medtronic 7 years ago, and she now currently, she worked in the field as a clinical specialist, and now she works in the education department within Medtronic. So please welcome Rebecca.
All right, well thank you, and thank you all for being here tonight. You braved the weather, which I know is hard to do, so we are so happy that y'all are here. I know you have a great support group going. I've talked to Frankie a little bit about, your ideas, the topics y'all have covered. I think it's really, really good what you guys are involved in here. So I'm glad you're here tonight. And what I'm going to talk about is some of the psychological stuff, as you just heard, that goes along with having an ICD, whether you are the patient or the spouse or family member of a patient. We're just going to cover some of that stuff, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions that y'all have at the end. So, as you may know, living with an ICD can come with some psychological baggage. Not to say baggage in a bad way, but we know that a lot of times it can be an emotional situation for patients. And we've known this for a while. As long as 12 years ago, researchers were looking at quality of life among ICD patients. And this was actually the biggest survey that was ever done. This was in '99. And since then, these results have kind of been replicated, but never in a survey this big. But a bunch of physicians and psychologists got together and said, we really want to understand what happens to ICD patients after they get their device. And so they surveyed over 400 of them. And what they found was actually really positive overall. Most patients said, my quality of life is pretty much what it was before I got my ICD. Emotionally, socially, I feel about the same, sometimes better than I used to feel. So that was encouraging. It doesn't seem that most people have major declines in quality of life. But this same study revealed that somewhere around 30% of patients say, I feel fine, but I did have a period where I had some feelings of anxiety or some feelings of depression about getting this device. It was a lot for me to adjust to. I was anxious for a while. And for most people, those feelings do resolve. But, it's very normal if you've had any kind of feelings like that. We know that that happens for a good percentage of patients. And what most patients indicated was that those feelings seem to come from sort of an underlying sense of fear. Maybe fears about getting a shock from the device, fears about just having to live with this piece of machinery in your body. Sometimes that's really hard for people to accept. Maybe fears about doing certain activities that now seem scary because they get your heart rate up and you're less comfortable with that than you used to be. So those are all common things to feel, particularly when you're newly implanted. Even the first year or so it may take to kind of resolve some of those feelings. Now, so I said that about 30% of patients have some periods of anxiety or depression, but we also know that over 70% of ICD patients say, I was a little bit angry, or maybe I wasn't depressed or anxious, I wouldn't say that, but I did have some mixed feelings about this. And so that's a very normal part of this adjustment process as well. So the question has been asked, well, why do some patients end up feeling this way? What is it about getting an ICD that can leave people feeling kind of anxious or depressed? And one theory is that it has to do with how well or how poorly we manage stress. Any type of stressful situation, and certainly I think for most people, having surgery, getting an ICD, being told that you need something, some type of surgery, can feel like a very stressful event. So we're going to talk a little bit about how we manage. I want you guys to think about how you tend to manage stress, both physically and mentally. So if this graph, if we think about this as representing your stress level, so let's say this black line is your stress level, and it's pretty low. You're kind of at baseline. Maybe you just got up for the day. You're just kind of puttering around. Nothing too stressful has happened yet. And you then encounter your first stressful situation of the day, which, we all know it's going to happen. Stress is inevitable in a way. It's something pretty much every day, not something horribly stressful, but, you get stuck in traffic, or you're driving in the rain, which is stressful, anything like that. When you experience stress, you experience arousal, both physical and mental arousal. And so your body gets stressed. You feel tense, maybe you're breathing a little shallow, your heart rate increases, and then mentally, you're problem solving. You're trying to get out of that stressful situation. You're thinking about, oh gosh, now I'm stuck in traffic, I'm going to be late for this and that, and so you have all of those symptoms. And then in a healthy stress response, once you're out of that situation, you have sort of a calming response where all those levels go back down to baseline. They say, take a few deep breaths, kind of get your mind right again, and then go on about your day feeling fine. Well, that's an ideal situation. For many of us, at least on some days, this is more what our graph looks like. So we encounter our one stressful situation after another throughout the day, and they just seem to kind of pile up. And by the end of the day, your stress level is off the chart. I always know I've had a day like this when, those days where you lay down in bed and your mind is just going 100 miles an hour, and you realize, gosh, I haven't stopped all day. I haven't taken a breath all day. That's what we call strain, which is chronic mismanagement of stress. So strain happens when we don't take care of ourselves and we don't manage our stress very well. Now, we all have days like this, but some people live their lives this way. Usually they work for Medtronic or St. Jude, or they're nurses. But some people really do. Every day is like this. No matter what you do, every day can feel like this. So what's dangerous about strain is that it can compromise our health in some different ways. So people who really are chronically stressed in this way are more susceptible to having high blood pressure, high cholesterol. They're more vulnerable to heart attacks. Their immune system kind of is compromised. If you ever notice, if you go through a real stressful period in your life, you may end up getting sick. You get the flu or something because your body breaks down under chronic stress. And psychologically, these people are at risk for what I call the big five. And these are the psychological constructs that put us at risk for really bad adjustment. And they also put our relationships with other people at risk. So strained people are more prone to anxiety and depression, anger and hostility towards others, social isolation, conflict in their relationships. So obviously this is a bad scene. You don't want all of this stuff going on, but a lot of us end up living this way because we don't manage stress effectively. And one theory about ICD patients or any type of medical patient in general is that if you don't find healthy ways to manage the things that are stressful about living with an ICD or living with heart disease, you're going to be more prone to these types of outcomes. So it's important to recognize